think you have your children figured out, darn it, they go and switch things up on you. In those real-life moments, my next guest says she puts on her quote-unquote detective hat and follows clues to help her parent to her child's personality. It's a parenting strategy Studio 5 contributor and Back to Basics founder Connie Sokol says works whether you have toddlers or whether you have teens. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
I need this topic too because Mark and I talk about this a lot. You see parents out there who are so great at individualizing their parenting approach, and I can see that would be really tricky as those individual personalities start to develop and change.
Oh yeah, and wanting to work with them rather than suppress them, or well, you have those moments where you want to do that. But it's so true. I mean, I joke about, I'm an avid fan of Agatha Christie, and I watch those BBC, Hercule Poirot, and I love it. But you know what? I've learned so much because it's all about observation, and that is
You've learned so much from a parenting perspective from Agatha Christie?
Absolutely, because you see these different things and you've learned to kind of observe in daily life, and so you're not just going like this on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful because there's so many things happening, and if you're on it, you can catch something before it becomes an issue.
So we'll start with that observation, putting on our own detective hats here. You say that doing that, stepping back and watching, will allow you to look for clues. Like what?
Yes. Well, first, it's good to get a baseline of your child. I mean, you know which ones, this one's moody, this one's sensitive, this one's hyper. You kind of have a baseline of what they're generally like. And then you kind of add in those ages and stages of, the different things that they're going through. But once you get a baseline of kind of what they're like, then you can pay attention to those sort of subtle nuances that, especially moms, we have such an ability to feel a shift. And it can be really subtle, but you can start feeling of that doesn't jive with their usual rhythm or their usual responses.
But you find the baseline will be the same, or does that even change as the hormones and the teenage years set in?
It does. It shifts, but their general personality, how they respond to that will kind of align with their personality type. So it really is more about paying attention to your gut and listening to, that doesn't sit right. I don't know why she did that or why he said that. And it'll just kind of ping. And if you pay attention to the pings, you'll start kind of, I call it Velcro. You'll kind of Velcro these different thoughts and nuances, and you go, wait a second, something's up.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
You say there was a situation where you recognized that subtle change in one of your own kids recently and it allowed you to shift your own parenting even subtly.
Yes. Well, one of my kids, they had started withdrawing a little bit, got a little more moody, and that could have been normal, but my gut kept saying something's not right, and then they kind of isolated a little more, not hugely, but it's loud in our house, so it made sense, but I was able to sort of nip something in the bud that could have become detrimental later on. And that's what I find when I'm talking to moms. It's that gut listening. Yeah. One of my friends, she said her daughter loved her long hair, came home one day and was adamant she wanted to cut it short. And the mom was kind of like surprised, but yeah, trendy things, okay. But she listened to her gut and she found out a little bit more and realized that this daughter was being bossy bullied by this girl at school. And the basic thing of, you cut your hair so you can be like us or you're not in our group. And so she was able to sort of nip this in the bud and work her through that. Sounds like a small thing, but that bond is amazing because now this daughter knows the mom is aware and she can come and talk to her about these kinds of things. And the mom knows, hey, that was out of her character. I'm going to pay attention.
I think that's a great example because something as simple as a haircut, unearthed, turned into a
situation.
Bullying situation.
Yes, exactly.
One way we'll deviate from maybe the detective work on the TV shows is they ask a lot of questions. Yeah. You say moms can do that, but not to the point of interrogation. You want to be a sounding board first, right?
Yes, that is sort of my niche, is interrogation. Tell me the story.
My sisters hate it. My teenage sisters are like, I'm hanging up now. I'm hanging up now. After 10 questions, we're cutting you off.
What is this, Channel 5? But I really feel that sounding board is huge, and it's something I work on all the time. But when they know that you're going to listen first and respond second, note that react isn't in there anywhere, bummer. But when they know that, then they'll be able to open up. And we know this, but it's in the moment of reminding ourselves, oh, sounding board. My sweet daughter came home one day, she was in 7th grade, and she announced that she had a boyfriend. Oh. And in our home, that's a no.
Okay.
And I was kind of like, my first response was going to be over my dead body and his. But I thought, oh, I need to think about this. And so the thought came, ask her. And so I said, well, what does that look like to you? And it turns out that looked like a hug before a class sometimes, and then sitting together at lunch. And so we talked through it, and I was able to be calm and say, what does that look like? What does that mean? Do you know what relationships look like and what that does, and how affection should match commitment, and the age matches, all of that. And so we talked about becoming super good friends instead. And she talked to him, and that's what they did. And then, within a few days, it's all not even an issue.
Parenting gold star there, because you could have easily said, we don't have boyfriends.
That's right, and here's the law.
And the conversation is over.
That's right, and she would not tell me. And so this is a really important thing. This sounding board is the beginning of that foundation.
that builds trust. In fact, you say it's that calm reaction oftentimes that will engage the trusting relationship.
Bingo. In fact, she told me on the bus that girls were telling her, don't tell your mom, don't tell your mom. And she said, you know, I can tell my mom anything. But then she was like, even I was swithering. So I didn't know this was a test for me. She came home and told me, and thank goodness I was calm, so that I feel like she'll be able to tell me more things in the future if needed.
I thought this next point was interesting. You say parenting to your child's personality. Yes, it helps you from the parenting perspective, but more than that, it can even help your child become more confident.
Oh, yes.
How so?
Well, helping them embrace their core self. I think sometimes it's so hard for our kids. There's lots of different variety, and we can kind of pigeonhole, and if they don't act just this way, then they're odd, they're weird, they're whatever, they're hard to work with. But if we help them to embrace their personality, the strengths and the weaknesses, and teach them there isn't one perfect personality. It's you embrace those things, embrace who you are, accept that, and then you work with those, improve. Life will temper them. You're going to improve those things as you go along, but there has to start with the basis of acceptance. And so you rejoice in their personality, and then you make light of and can joke about the things that are maybe the things that need to be improved.
The nuances.
Yeah, because those things are going to need time.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it would be easy as you consider this topic, parent to your child's personality, to look at the negatives, to look at the weaknesses, and march around that issue, right? Like you're stubborn, or you're a little lazy. I mean, you don't say those words, but inherently
all the time.
Yeah, you're thinking of all these negatives that you as a parent have to change. You'd keep it light and try to play up the positive attributes of each child.
Oh, for sure. And first, like I said, we kind of make light of it. I had one son, he was really resonant and loud. What a shock at our house. But
where did he get that, Connie?
From his father.
Come on.
But truly, it was like, oh my gosh. And we'd say, honey, can you please notch it down? It's so loud. And he's like, I'm not loud. We're like, thank goodness, this headache must just be from the lighting. I don't know, but we would make it a light thing. And so that it was, they recognize I'm still loved, and we can still bring up stuff, and it's okay. It's all part of the package. So that's really important. I think the next thing is to take those and play to their positive strengths. So like I had a daughter that she just loves to talk in vines, you know, like those little snippets. I call it soundbite living, where in vines, and it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, and has all those little phrases and things that people share.
I just showed my tech savvy side, didn't I? Vines, like so gardening.
No, it drove me nuts, and I feel like I couldn't get a good conversation with her, and I found myself being negative. So I enrolled her in this film camp, and it was the most darling thing. They teach you sound and editing and acting and directing, and I thought, I'm going to take that interest she has in videos and things like that, and instead of hammering and suppressing, I'm going to channel it so she can create a hobby and a talent and a skill, and maybe she can actually do something with it in the future. So we did that film camp. Day 2, she gets in the car and she goes, I can't wait to do this next year. I love it.
Awesome.
So I felt like it developed her and helped us to have a positive bond and still be able to joke about, hey, I need some real conversation. So play to those strengths and channel that energy.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much. Where can we get more of your grand advice?
Free chat night. We're doing them at libraries so that women can connect with their community and each other. It's so fun. It's Studio 5 segment on steroids. We show one, we discuss it, and then we apply it. So check on my website, ConnieSokol.com, for the one nearest you.
And you're going to local libraries?
Free night, yep.
To bring this conversation to life. I love that.
It's so fun. We already started, and it's been so fun. We already have 3 other libraries on board. So
let me know when you're in Davis County.
All right,
I'll pop in. I'll contribute. Studio 5 on steroids. I can do that. Thank you so much, Connie. All right, if you can't